I'll
No.
just lean in for these sort of general chilly chatties.
Hello, viewers. How you doing? It's Full
Howdy.
Record Jacket with Phil and Ben, and a general chat here. I've got I made a list the other day on my phone of things to talk about on the show,
Yeah.
and I've got. Well, we're not going to talk about this in depth. We'll come back to these artists later. But I wonder, Ben, do you have an artist or band that you think is great and not I'm not talking about the album. Sorry, the artists who are considered uncool and you think they should be considered cool. I'm thinking more that they've just kind of serious music fans maybe don't always appreciate them, and maybe they should do. And it's not to say that these artists are considered rubbish. They may be considered great, but maybe a lot of people just don't listen to them enough or pay them enough attention. And you think that they should be given more respect. We want to get more people listening to them. Is there an act that fits into that for you?
There's an act that fits into that thingy for me anyway, who I love, but I don't listen to them often enough. And when I listen to them, I'm like, I should be listening to this every day. And that's Led Zeppelin. I don't sort of go out of my way to listen to them, but when I do, I'm like, oh, yes, baby.
This rocks, man.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, obviously, I've got certain bands that I like that, could be deemed middle of the road and don't get, take like Matchbox 20, for instance. Not everybody's cup of tea. Maybe
they're kind of considered uncool by a lot of people, aren't they?
Yes,
so
they are.
They're more like the underdog that you think is unfairly slagged off.
Elbow. I think more people should listen to Elbow.
Yeah, I should perhaps listen more to Elbow.
Yeah, I think Elbow are very underrated. I think they're between sort of, the music journalists and that, they're very rated, but a lot of people probably know, things like Daylight, this, and Grounds for Divorce, etc. So I'd probably say Elbow are probably one.
Okay, I like it. I'm not going to talk about him in detail now. Maybe I will at some point in the future.
Have a look through my collection while you're making your point, and I'll see if there's anybody else.
The one I'm going to say, I'm going to go right back. I'm going to go way back. I'm going to go back
when?
I'm going to go back to the 50s, okay? Starting the 50s, anyway. And you know how Elvis Presley gets some respect, particularly for his early stuff. And Little Richard gets respect for being, And Chuck Berry gets respect, doesn't he? I think, I think, and Buddy Holly also gets respect. But I tell you who I think gets overlooked by many people when you go back to that era.
Coolio.
Well, maybe, but I'm going to say Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
And I think Jerry Lee Lewis is one of the great icons of American music. Now, he's obviously a controversial guy because there's things not in his music, but in his private life that make him controversial, but I would say no more so than many other rock stars and rappers and people who've considered to have been great artists. So I'm not holding any of that against him. But I do think that Lewis is one of the great performers of American music of all time, and I think that he's underappreciated for both his rock and roll and his country stuff. I think there's a lot more to his canon than Great Balls of Fire, and I think people should delve a bit more deeply into it. But I'll shut up at that point because otherwise I'll go off on a nerdy thing, So we'll stop there.
Would Paul Weller fall into that sort of category?
Well, it could be, because I think Paul Weller's made a lot of albums that are good, and I think a lot of people maybe he's not given the respect. I think he has a problem with the Jam being a bit of a millstone around his neck, doesn't he? Because he has a thing with a lot of people love the Jam and love him for the Jam, but they are not that interested in his solo career.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's
like Gary Barlow when he left Take That.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
I'm not sure Paul Weller would like that comparison, but yeah, could be. Yeah, he could be a bit underrated, and he may be. Yeah.
So another one that comes to mind, an underrated band that nobody really. But when I listen to their albums, I'm like, nah, there's not, a dead track on here. It is Doves.
All right, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, I like Doves. I mean, especially their first 2 or 3 albums were great. And I don't think they sort of get, when people speak about those sort of guitar bands of the mid to late 90s, etc., you don't often get Doves thrown into the mix. And they'd come from that sort of, they were a dance sort of thingy, weren't they, beforehand? Sub, they were called. They were sort of like a dance sort of trio-y sort of thing. And then their studio burnt down, and I think they built a new studio up and changed musical direction. But they're all multi-talented instrumentalists and stuff. And I kind of think they kind of get missed from the picture at times.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah. Doves and Elbow. I'm going full on British here. I'm literally, as we're doing this, I'm going through my record collection to see if there is any other bands that sort of, get overlooked. I think New Order do as well a little bit. I think they get a little bit overlooked because everybody, if you say to people big bands of the 80s, it's always all, guitar-based bands. It's U2, Stone Roses, Happy Mondays, The Smiths, and New Order kind of get overlooked. And I think they did some really good stuff. You can always tell a New Order song anyway. It's got a very distinctive sound to it. Yeah. So.
Did Depeche Mode fit that category as well?
Yeah,
I
quite
know
possibly.
They've come back recently, and they've come back recently. But did they also not get the respect that they deserve from some people?
Supergrass. Could you put Supergrass?
Supergrass is a band that I do feel have been a little underrated.
Yeah.
Not that they've been underrated by critics or people in the know. They are regarded as a great band.
Yeah.
And they always got good reviews for their albums generally, didn't they?
Yeah.
But with the
Snow
public,
Patrol for me as well. Snow Patrol are another band that sort of, might get overlooked slightly.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah,
anything from the other side of the Atlantic that we should listen to more? I read reference the other day to Flaming Lips. I know they're again another band that's very highly rated.
Yeah, and probably don't get maybe like a lot of the early Kings of Leon stuff as well.
Yeah, so I liked the early Kings of Leon stuff, but they're one band. I tend to defend artists if they get accused of selling out because I would say, well, are people just slugging it off because it's become popular? But with Kings of Leon, I'm afraid I really haven't liked the stuff they did after the first couple of albums, where they went in more of a. Well, they definitely went in they went in a U2 direction, didn't they? Because they actually toured with U2. They were opening act for U2, and they were impressed by how U2's music worked in the stadium, and so they then decided to sort of do their own stadium rock. But it seems a bit odd because I am a bit of a U2 fan. But a band going more towards U2 actually turned me off.
Maybe Ryan Adams and Future Islands for me as well. They're another sort of band that go under the radar.
Haven't they just got a new record, Future Islands? Am I right to think that?
Yes. I think they have one coming out soon. Yeah, or if it's not already come out, I've seen them a couple of times. They supported Noel Gallagher last year. But yeah, Ryan Adams is another one that doesn't. His first debut album's a brilliant album. So
there are some very strong Bryan Adams, Ryan Adams albums.
Maybe you could throw them both in the mix.
Yeah, I have heard some people slag off Ryan Adams lately, and it's probably more to do with these. Wasn't he also accused of what is it, grooming young women or something, or
controlling behaviour,
being inappropriate to women? I don't think they were underage or anything, were they? But it was to do that they were supposed to have been. Yeah, I don't know whether that's blown out of proportion or not, or well, I don't know the detail of that.
Yeah.
But it turned some people against him, and I even saw some online, some serious music fans trying to claim that they've got more respect for Bryan Adams because at least he's just a straight out, rocking. This is what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
And I thought, really, you're trying to do that? I'm not sure. I think Ryan Adams does deserve a bit more respect than that as an artist for what he's done.
And we mentioned Future Islands. That album actually came out on Friday.
It's out.
It's out now.
It's no longer in the future. It's
in the past. So Past Islands. It's called People Who Aren't There Anymore, and it's their 7th studio album.
I must admit, I do quite like the stuff that you've played to me or sent to me.
Yeah. It's got a hypnotic. God, I can't speak again. It is hypnotic vibe to it. It's got a sort of.
It has got quite a pulsing. Yeah, there's something about it that's pretty good. It's sort of artistic synth rock. I don't know how you describe it.
Yeah. And Samuel T. Herring's is absolutely bonkers.
A weird singer. If you want a band that's got a quirky, weird singer, this is a band you need to check out.
Yes, I fully recommend. If you ever get a chance to see Future Islands live, you will literally be mesmerised by a guy who looks like he does teach history. Like that supply teacher that used to come in, and you thought, oh, he looks all right, but he looks like he could punch me in the face as well. He's such a sort of visual sort of. You just can't take your eyes off of him. So that's my view on that one. So I mean, there's probably hundreds of bands you could go and sort of say are kind of overlooked, because I suppose during every decade, every year, there's a, you take the 90s, Oasis kind of overshadowed everything that, and I know as time's gone on, things like Pulp and Blur have sort of, and Suede have sort of taken back a little bit of that limelight, etc. But you do sort of...
Yeah. I'm not so much talking about the cult acts or the lesser known acts. I'm talking about ones that are sort of well known. They achieved a good status. They got well reviewed. They've been highly regarded, but we kind of still don't listen to them as much as perhaps we should.
Well, Muse. I don't listen to Muse, and they always get,
Are they highly rated?
I think so. Yeah, I think the music press kind of likes them.
I don't think I really like his voice. I think that's why I didn't get into them. Am I right to think that his voice is a bit of a difficult one to take?
See, Taylor Swift for me, she gets all these plaudits and stuff, and I just don't get it.
Have you ever listened to one of her albums all the way through?
I've got one of her albums.
Which one have you got?
Is it Temptation or whatever it is? Or
I don't think I know that one. Haven't you got 1989? Isn't that the one that's...
I have got, and I bought it for my daughter. Taylor. Oh no, I'm in the wrong bit, Phil. I'm in the wrong bit. I'm underprepared. Taylor, Reputation. I know it had a tation in there, so yeah, I've got that album, and I remember listening to it once, and I mean, as far as pop goes, it was okay, but I don't get the mass hysteria around it, if you know what I mean. It's well written, well structured, lyrically good pop music. But,
I've only listened to bits, but I kind of get some of the songs. I kind of get why she's got these loyal fans, because if you were a young girl or teen girl at the time she started doing these records, it would have kind of spoken to you because it was about the sort of feelings that you would have had. And then as she's grown, the themes have become more sophisticated. But there's a whole, a lot of it's about relationships and stuff. So if you were a young woman that was into her when you were a teenager, it would have been maybe the thing that really resonated with you, and her songs have continued to speak to you through these different eras that she's had. She calls them the eras, doesn't she? The different albums that she's made. I can sort of see why she's become a bit of a, heroine
phenomenon
to these. Yeah, you can sort of see why they like her. But I haven't listened to enough of it to be able to say whether I think it's brilliant. But she does get good reviews from critics nowadays. They all seem to, particularly in the US, they all seem to regard her quite highly. But I don't know the music on all the albums well enough to really be able to say whether I think Taylor Swift is a great artist.
Yeah.
But she's certainly been successful, and I can see how she's been successful.
Yeah, it just doesn't. Yeah, like I said, it's well manufactured pop music, and it doesn't pain me when I hear a Taylor Swift song. I just don't get the sort of mass hysteria around it. Really, I think that's what it is with me.
Do you know what I was driving around with in my car to be
a steering wheel?
To be up to date, although I'm not totally up to date because I think I may be 3 years behind with this particular album. I was listening to Dua Lipa.
Oh yes, yeah. Who has come out in the last week and basically said that another one of these sort of look backs, judging the past on today's value, and basically saying that a lot of what went on during 90s Britpop was misogynistic and all this sort of stuff.
Oh, is that what she said? I didn't know that. I didn't know she'd said that.
Yeah.
It could be true in the music industry, couldn't it? There could have been some dodgy stuff going down.
It's rife everywhere, isn't it? But it's one of them, isn't it? Unfortunately, you can't judge the past on today's values. You can only learn on it and make sure you don't make the same mistakes.
Yeah.
That's Taylor's history lesson for today.
So I did listen to this Dua Lipa album, and I do think it's quite cleverly put together pop music. And she seems to occasionally, she's got 2 or 3 hits, hasn't she, that are very, very catchy, and they you hear them everywhere, like that Levitating. And then there's this one.
Because I don't listen to.
You don't listen to any pop.
I don't no, because the only radio I really have on is TalkSport or Radio 5 Live. So I don't really hear anything.
Pop. Well, I don't hear a huge amount. A lot. I don't hear a huge amount of pop stuff now, and there aren't that many pop songs that I like that much. But Harry Styles did one that's quite catchy as well, and it's one of those again. Is it called As It Was? You heard that one?
Yeah. See, Harry
it's just
Styles.
One of those everywhere hits. You hear that, and you've heard it a few times. You think, yeah, I can see that this is going to be played everywhere. It's going to become.
Yeah, I don't mind Harry Styles. He's kind of he's almost.
He's got some talent.
He's very much in that Robbie Williams sort of thing. He's come from a boy band and he's made credible.
Yeah. I think he's taken over the position that Robbie Williams occupied a few years ago.
Yeah. Sign of the Times. That's one of his songs I really, really like.
I guess George Michael was George Michael the first to come out of a UK boy band and then be regarded as a more mature, credible artist. I don't know if there's anyone that did that before him. But
David Bowie used to be in a band?
Yeah, he
wasn't a boy band.
He was never in a boy band. No, he was always a credible artist when he came onto the scene.
Yeah.
But then Robbie Williams did the same thing, didn't he? And became the biggest star. I mean, George Michael was the biggest star in his era. Then it was Robbie Williams, and I think it's now him. Harry Styles.
Yeah. So like I say, I don't mind Harry Styles. I mean, he's released 3 albums, is it now? Harry's House, etc. Yeah, I don't mind him. Like I say, it's not complicated music, is it? And I suppose that's what makes it good and catchy.
It's a lot of it's put together from sampled stuff. They don't even have musicians playing on these records. Now they just get we want to have a guitar lick. We'll go into the software and find a guitar lick.
No, just AI. AI the life out of it.
It's almost like that, but I have to admit that I do kind of admire the construction. These Dua Lipa records, they're quite cleverly constructed. They're quite catchy, and it's quite kind of
yeah.
On one level, you could say, it's mass-produced pop, but I do kind of admire the craft behind it as well.
Yeah.
And I do like to listen to some of this stuff, just so I don't become too much of a boring old git that likes a load of old music.
And to be fair, for anybody, I suppose, to construct any sort of art form and put it out there for people like me to ridicule it or love it, hate it, etc., they're doing something I could never do anyway. So, but like I say, I can only tell you what my ears like. So, but yeah, I would say for me, Elbow, Doves, and Future Islands I'm going to go for. But then, like I said, there are things like Led Zeppelin stuff that I don't probably pay enough attention to. So I'm going for those three for mine. And possibly Matchbox 20. Lob that in there as well.
There you go. And I was just going for Jerry Lee Lewis. I implore you folks, listen to Jerry Lee Lewis, as well as all those acts that Ben just mentioned.
Yeah.
Those are our underrated, credible artists that we should listen to more, or something like that.
And Taylor Swift.